Yes, waymaker, miracle worker, touching any heart that is ready to be touched. He is Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Manasseh, Jehovah Sidkenu, Jehovah Shalom, Jehovah Rapha, Jehovah with the 7 compound names. Jehovah of the Old Testament is your Jesus of the New Testament. The reason was he could not die as Jehovah. Jehovah is eternal. And remember, the redemption laws in the Old Testament, they said it had to be a kinsman's redeemer. So he had to come down here, condescend, come down to our level, be born by a woman, but the inside man was none other than God himself, Jehovah, tabernacled in a badger skin called Jesus. Oh my, tickles the cockles of my heart to know that he, being the great Jehovah, but he condescended himself to come to be a kinsman redeemer. An angel could not stand for us because we are not angels. Even after death, we don't become angels. We're still humans. That's why there was a creation in Revelation of a heaven. John saw a new heaven and a new earth. So that means the heaven that we have now will be destroyed. And the earth that we have now, coronavirus and all these things, will be destroyed and be done away with. And then a new dispensation, a new life, a new era without sin, without the devil will be created. That's why that little old slave man in the days of slavery in America and the South, he was called Moses. He was asked, why do you believe God anyhow? Have you ever seen him? And he said, yes, I see him every day because he is God. He lives within my heart. And something that he said inspired me to talk about what is faith. Moses was blind, deaf, and dumb. But when he was asked, why does he believe God? Because he had faith in his heart. When you have faith, you don't need the natural sight. You need the inward sight. Is that in the Bible? Yes, it is. Look at John, the Revelator. They caught him and they thought he was a witch, and they burned him in oil, for those of you that read the Bible. And they burned him in oil for a long time, but he didn't die. And they put him in a drum that had spikes. He didn't die either. Then they decided to take off his natural eyes, and they dumped him at Alcatraz of that day, which is the Isle of Patmos. And then while he was there, that's where he can say, in the day of the Lord, I saw. No natural eyes, but he was using now his spiritual eyes. So brother, sister, faith is about that ability to have an extra sight, a sight that is beyond what we know. That's why I'm putting on glasses, because my sight ain't good. And when you reach 40 years old, your eyes get flat anyway. So you do need corrective measures. But brother, the sight that we're going to have beyond the blue is going to be an eternal sight. For we shall be like him. So faith is that ability to see, like what Martin Luther King said, is that ability to see the staircase, even though it's not in your view. That ability to believe something that you don't see, knowing that the unseen has more power over the seen. The Bible says the things that we see were created by things we can't see. Because God in the beginning, he said, let there be, let there be, let there be, and there was. So that is what faith is all about. God had to believe his word when he said, let there be, for it to happen. So for you to receive from God, you have to have that ability to see beyond the natural, beyond the obvious, to look beyond. Look at this. I was talking to a friend of mine who is an unbeliever, and he said his argument was, I don't see God, that's why I don't believe him. But because of the coronavirus, I said to him, right, look, I saw my advantage there. And I said, look, you are cooped up at home. Have you ever seen the coronavirus yourself? He said, no, but if I go into a lab, I'll be able to see it. And I said, yes, if you become a Christian, you're able to see God in everything that you do, in everything that you see. So it's about being within the same environment of the thing that you want to see. So Moses was asked by one of his bosses, and he said, you believe this Bible? If God said in that Bible, go through that wall, are you going to go through it? And he said, yes. He says, oh, how are you going to get through? And he said, if God told me to jump through that wall, before I hit the wall, there's going to be a hole there. That's what faith is all about, that ability to take God at his word. Brother Branham says, how can you say you love God? Because faith is all about trust. That's why even in a marital situation, if you cannot trust each other, you cannot have love between the two of you. If you're always looking, oh, who is that in the phone? Who's done that? There is no love there. Because love is based on faith and trust. That ability to say, I trust this person. You can imagine if you were on top of a building and somebody you trust at the bottom says, right, just jump. Many people would be thinking, what? But when you have trust, when someone you trust say, jump, you will jump. And that's what a real Christian does. You believe God, you love God, and whatever he says in the Bible, I am the Lord that healeth all thy diseases, including coronavirus. When you believe that, when you swallow that promise, it doesn't matter how long it's going to take. For Abraham, it was 25 years. For Joseph, it was 13 years. For Noah, it was 120 years. For Enoch, it was 500 years. So the time factor does not really matter. So if you love God the way you say you do, you must believe him by faith. And this is the time that we need a rapturing faith, because if you don't have that rapturing faith, you are not going into the rapture. If you don't have that faith to believe for your healing, how are you going to have faith for the rapture? Because that's going to need a lot of faith. So brother, sister, this is the sermonette for today. Have faith in God, for faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, touched, smelled, tasted. Just a quick example. If I was hungry and I needed a loaf of bread to live between life and death, and you gave me £1 or $1, whatever currency you use, to buy the bread. When I receive that £1, I may have to walk 14 miles to buy the bread. But I have the goods, I have the price for the bread, so I'm not afraid to go to the shop to collect it. So that's the same thing when you believe God, you've got the faith. That means that's why Paul says faith is the substance, it's actually the thing. So the faith is that pound that you're holding, and you're walking towards the shop. So when you hold faith, you're not walking to the shop, but you're in situ wherever you are, waiting. For they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. It is only God trying you to see what you're going to do. So faith is our victory. Faith delivered Joshua, Moses. By faith, Abraham could see his son. So by faith, you should see your healing, your deliverance, whatever it is that you have need of. God bless you richly. Shalom.